and welcome to Crafts and Crime. I'm Amy.
I'm Elaine.
And as always, we have a craft and a crime. So we did not have anything on our bi-weekly schedule because stuff came up. And I got really sick. I mean, we had that sickness, I think, the last time we recorded. So for the last episode before this.
It's just been back to back to back illness, plague in both houses.
We were talking about everyone had like this cold thing going on, and it was like, is it allergies? Is it a cold? Like what is this? So everyone kind of dealt with that for a while. Well, then I got hit with a weird stomach bug. I didn't know what it was. It was so painful. But then I've heard that other people are dealing with the same. So it must be something going around. But I was out. I never have been in bed. Like, I got 4 kids. I can't just be in bed all day. And this was in the middle of the week. So it was Monday. I remember I was sitting at the computer working, and I got like a freelance job. And so a lot of it's like scrolling up and down. And I thought maybe I got motion sickness. Yeah. Because it was a lot of like go up and then copy and paste and then put this here and change this wording and stuff. And I was like, man, I don't feel good. Well, then it just progressively got worse Monday night. And I was like out on the couch. My stomach was killing me, like a sharp, no, it was more like a dull pain. Like I can't explain it. But anyways, then Tuesday, out all day long. I was in bed from Monday night until Wednesday afternoon. I could not get out of bed. I was so sick. I was so dehydrated. I couldn't eat anything. I had like, what did I say that one day? What was it? Yeah, Tuesday, the worst day. I was just drinking Pepto. I'm trying to just live. And I was able to eat half a Jell-O. Oh, yeah. And then I fell asleep. And then I ate the other half of the Jell-O, which was warm at this point.
It's probably better for your stomach anyway.
Yeah, I just could barely. And then I fell back asleep. And then Jack came home from work. And I was like, I'm dying. And I was like, I need some type of nutrition. I need like vegetables and sugar or something. And so he made a smoothie. And I was like, please put spinach in it. I need the iron. I need something. And I could only drink like half a smoothie. And then I slept the rest of the day. But then Wednesday, I was feeling better, like a lot better by Wednesday. So I was able to get out of bed Wednesday afternoon. Couldn't eat dinner with everybody. But then starting Wednesday, I had back-to-back laundry orders.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I had 4 people requesting me back-to-back. And I did the math, and I did 20 loads of laundry in 3.5 days.
Kill me.
Yeah. And I really shouldn't have, but we were like, well, these are my regulars. And so, I was really struggling. So by Saturday, I had finished up the last of the orders. I'm like, please, nobody else. Please, nobody else. And I was working my freelance job in between that. And so I was like on the computer, and then I was getting up and doing laundry. I was out. I could not, I could barely have a conversation. And then we got together this weekend. Was, as we're recording, it was Memorial Day weekend. And we got together Saturday, Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because you told me the guys are coming over. I'm like, huh?
Yeah. You're always the last to know.
I am.
I'm usually technically second. And then Randy is third.
Yeah.
But usually it's Jack and Kurt first.
And what's funny is it's always at my house.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what's happening?
You have the barbecue grill in the back. That's why.
I know. And the giant dining room table that everyone can sit at. So, yeah, my dining room table can fit. Technically, it can fit 12 people. Because right now, we have 8 chairs, 4 on each side, but we could pull the table out and you could fit 2 more chairs on each end. So we could fit a lot of people.
My dining room table fits a snake because that's what's on it right now.
Right. Right. So, but, yeah, so we got together this weekend, and I was still so scared to eat anything, drink anything.
But you got to enjoy some food.
I did. We had some good carne asada on Sunday.
It was so good.
Yeah, we did the little bit of leftover meat that we had. We did tacos on Monday. But yeah, so Monday we were going to try to record Monday, But then I was like, it's the holiday, and
Seriously,
I am
it's like
so
the one
tired.
day I get, because like Kurt didn't have, he went to go visit his mom, because my mother-in-law was in the hospital from a surgery. She's good. She's at home now. And so that was all he was doing. So pretty much it was just like our husbands are never home this much.
No.
They work 6 days a week. And so we had went out last week. If anybody out there is a Goblin fan or loves all kinds of movies that are like Italian horror, we went to Dawn of the Dead's 45th anniversary and had a little date, and Goblin was playing. And then for any horror fans, freaking Tom Savini and Eli Roth were in the audience, and that was crazy and funny. So like every time Tom's character would show up in Dawn of the Dead, we were all screaming, and it was funny. But oh my God, I had totally humiliated myself. Like #Virgo, gonna think about it forever. They messed up because they have to remove the sounds that the band could play the soundtrack live. And there was an issue. It happens. It wasn't a big deal. We weren't like booing and throwing popcorn. There was a sound issue, so the sound went out. And they had rewound and gone back and rewound. They kept doing it so many times. And I really felt bad because I did not mean to, but it was dead silent. And
oh God, my kids are sorry.
It's okay. We're just chit chatting.
Yeah.
And it was totally dead silent. And we thought that it had caught up, and it didn't. And I guess I was the very first person to realize it. And I went, no. And then luckily everybody laughed, and I was like, fuck. It was hilarious. But oh my God, that place was so beautiful. So I was like, I got to go on a date because I forced my husband to take that day off. I bought the tickets and was like, you have to take this day off.
That's right. Kurt had a really long weekend.
4
he had
days.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah.
Jack only had 2 days off.
I don't think he's had 4 days off. I don't even think he's had 3 days off since Christmas.
Yeah. No, Jack works Saturday, so he only had Sunday, Monday off. So by Monday, we had started watching a show. It's so stupid but funny. But I can't remember. It's like what we do in the shadows.
Oh, okay.
And so we started season 1 of that because I'm like, this has been on for a while. So we started watching that.
I love the female. I've only watched the show a little bit, but I love the main female vampires. I don't know if there's more than one female, but the one with the curly hair. Her dress is so beautiful, and you can buy a replica of it on Amazon, really? Like a really high quality replica for like $80. And I was like, I'm gonna keep it and hoard it for 20 years.
I would say there were times, and because I'm very I don't know, I'm pretty good with accents, but her accent, I could tell she was trying to do like what her natural accent would come through, and then the one that she was trying to, and so I'm like, well, it's season 1, it still needs, so I'm sure it's like perfected over the years. So we just binged season 1 and told the kids like, you cannot be in here because on Sunday I had enough energy to paint a couple more doors because we're painting the house, and I'm painting the bedroom doors, new hinges, all of that. I still need to buy the doorknobs, but so I did some of that on Sunday. So I think I just did too much too fast after being sick. Like as of today is what day? Wednesday. So I barely started feeling better a week ago. And I have not had a lot of downtime. So Monday was kind of like, I need to sit and relax. I crocheted a lot because I'm working on my temperature blanket. So I've caught up on that because I was like behind by some days.
God, and this week is going to be all like right around 90.
Yeah, it's going to be hot. So
rude.
I worked on that, and then I worked on my Sugar Skull mosaic crochet blanket, and I got a lot done. I'm like,
God, that thing makes me so anxious because those little skeins of yarn you're using are so thin that I'm like, she's like crocheting with some string and it's killing me. So I'm like, what? It's so cute though, but that like stresses me out.
Getting to the top of the teeth. So like picture a skull, and the bottom of a skull. I'm working from the bottom up, and so it's like the top teeth. I'm like almost done with the top teeth part. So I've been working on that. It'll probably take me a while, but I finally went on to my 4th color.
Yay!
So because it's like a rainbow, like it's not really variegated because it's all different colors, so it's like a rainbow. But so I worked on that, and it was nice to just binge watch a show, and then so my stomach's feeling better, and so I was like, we got to get back in the swing of things, and we're in year 2 of the podcast, so I've been trying to buckle down and start working. So I did some work, and then it's crazy how because I've been sick, and then we hadn't really been doing a whole lot lately. Once I got into it, I was like, oh man, I forgot how fun this is. Like doing my research and typing it up. And so I'm like back into it. I could totally.
I will definitely say my nails hindered me.
Yeah.
Because like I have gone back and forth between like doing the work on a laptop for the first like 8 months. I did all of this by hand. Y'all could hear my because I liked that sound anyway. But and then I kind of went back to the computer, and then I went to just like doing Google Docs on my phone. But then I had these like huge, like almost 2-inch long stiletto nails that I got done all fancy for my daughter's quince, and but then I just like left them, and I was like filling them in and redoing the polish, and then they grew out so much. I was just telling you, I was like, oh, if I just keep going, because I cut them all down, so it looks so terrible because I need to file them off. But I was like, if I just keep growing them out, they'll eventually look like French tips. But anyway, so that it really does make it so ridiculously difficult.
I mean, even mine are just naturally long, and I'm like, even typing yesterday, I was like, I need to like cut them down. I'm not used to long nails, but
I love having long nails, and it's funny because I can do everything just fine. I can take care of the chickens. I can do everything, but
except pick your nose.
I know, seriously. No, if I have to try to change one of my piercings, any of the ones with the little captive bead or just a twist on bead for the thread, I cannot change them. So I have to forget it. If I wore normal earrings, no way. And I couldn't help anybody else either. It's not just my own. Oh my God. Sorry. When I got my septum pierced, I had my nails done, and I remember what happened is it was really sore, and something had gotten stuck because it was pretty fresh, and I think like the ball had skipped a thread, so it was like stuck, and I was about to have to like go to the shop and be like, can you please get this off, because nobody can do it. Like Crystal tried and Kurt had tried, and I was like, I'm sorry you guys, it's hurting so bad. So it was terrible because they were like so fiddly. You cannot do anything like intricate. If you drop a quarter, forget that quarter.
Oh my gosh, have you seen that video, the lady with the long nails trying to get her credit card off the floor?
Oh no.
She's like,
oh my gosh, seriously, that sucks. It really does. I've gotten pretty good at being able to like pick it up, but yeah, if what was I doing? Oh my God, we were at Target on Saturday, and we were paying in cash, which we never do, and we were short some change, and Kurt was about to give the cashier $1, and I was like, no, hold on, I have a nickel. I was trying to get a fucking nickel out of my wallet with these stupid nails, and it was all tight, and I was just embarrassed. I grabbed a dime. I was like, "Did you hear?" It's fine. We were standing there for so long.
Trying to like, I'm picturing like your Aldi cart, like trying to get your quarter in with your long nails.
No,
knuckle it.
Trying to put moisturizer under your eyes.
Oh, ow.
Yeah. So there are a few things that end up kind of dumb, and I get it. But I'm like, I have little hands, so the long nails elongate. The length of my hands.
Okay, so starting to get into what y'all are here for, crafts and crime. Let me double check the calendar. So this episode will be released on the 4th, and I saw something on TikTok that is craft related that I wanted to like announce for anyone that listens to this week. If you go to workshopweek.co, so workshopweek.co, there is a crafting workshop, and it's free, and it goes from June 3rd to the 7th, so it started the day before y'all are hearing this, but it has workshops for everything, and it's free. So they have like watercolor painting, hand lettering, calligraphy, mixed media, drawing, journaling, illustration, digital art, paper crafting, and more. And so I think you need to RSVP. I have no idea, but it has a bunch of different artists, so it is craft related. So anybody that is crafty and wants to learn something, they're having this free workshop thing. So I thought that would be fun to kind of announce, like, if you're here for the crafts and want to do crafty stuff, there is a free workshop. It popped up on TikTok, and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta announce this on the podcast so all the crafty people can go and watch. So we'll eventually get to the part where...
Thanks for looking out.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we'll eventually get to the part where we start doing more of our own little how-tos on Patreon, which we're going to get to soon. Probably within the next well, probably next month we'll have something on Patreon recorded because it goes along with my craft. So
yay!
Yeah. So, anyways, okay. Do you have your craft ready to go?
I am ready.
Okay.
I got a little shorty here.
Okay.
So, on Mother's Day, Kurt woke me up and he handed me a bouquet of flowers, and I was like, so asleep.
Oh, that's
and
story.
they were really beautiful.
Oh, really?
They were really beautiful red roses, and so I went to go smell them, and I bashed myself in the face with something very hard, and I had no idea what was happening. They were Sola wood. So, I have seen these forever. If you're ever planning a wedding, you will be hit with a million Sola wood flower bouquets, and they're beautiful. So I wanted to dive into that a little bit, and I'll get into Sola wood flowers at the end. But a little back history. Sola, or Shola wood. Oops, pulled the headphone cord a little. Also, it's Indian cork. There are so many names, but it's scientifically known as Ascanomony. That's the type of a plant. Ascanomony.
Okay.
Laganeria. It's an Asian marsh plant, and it likes to grow as a weed in flooded marsh paddy fields for rice. It's related to a tapioca plant, and it is edible, but mostly just the leaves and the flowers, and they were eaten during times of like food scarcity. So it wasn't something that we really ate like a ton, but it wasn't sought after. What it was sought after for was its stem. The stem is where the wood comes from. It's very long. It can be, up to 2 and 3 feet in length. It looks kind of like a sugar cane that's white, not green. And for size comparison, it is actually lighter than expanded polystyrene. So in case you don't know, people, it's that fluffy white stuff that goes inside of boxes to protect electronics. Typically that's an expanded. Okay. So very, very, very lightweight. And the wood itself is extremely tolerant to water. Obviously, it grows in water. And this part of it is the underground part, under the water part of the plant. So in Bengal, where the craft has really taken off, because it really has, it's throughout all of Asia. It's been used for thousands of years. But one of the articles that I found that it was really cool, these artisans are called excuse me if it's probably not right, the Malakar. And they are a specialized artisan in just these Shola wood pieces in general, because you have to imagine a wood so lightweight, you can make massive creations that don't weigh much, but just a tiny little nick in the wrong spot, and you could totally destroy the theme of what you had going. These Malakar make hats, huge bride and groom headdresses, toys, dolls, crowns, worship items for shrines and monasteries. And one of the things that's really, really interesting that I love so much is a hat called a Sholapith helmet. Now, surprisingly, this is actually an extremely iconic hat. Almost everybody will know what it is, and I just had no idea what it was called. It's those brown safari hats that have like the little band.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So there have been a lot of different versions of these, but it's the safari hat. It's so crazy. The thought of it is just so amazing. It seems like traditionally it started in the Philippines, this hat, and it was later taken by the Spanish and adapted for military uses, but it was made like pointier. So less of a wide brim, a narrower brim, and more of a taller, kind of an acorn shape on top. And that was what it was made for the military. So the interesting part is that sometimes these hats could be carved a lot out of more like the root ball of the plant, but you would take the pieces and build them upon that. And I'll explain how they do that too. And I just love it because I'm like, what? They made a hat?
Yeah.
And then when you see what this hat is, obviously it'll be on our Instagram. You're just like, what? it weighed like nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so crazy. But I love it because being resistant to water, it means you could sweat all in it and it wasn't going to rot off your head.
That's still so weird to think.
Right. It is very interesting. So for Sola wood to become usable, the plant is pulled up out of the muck and it's the leaves and the flower parts completely removed. So all you're left with is like a rod. It's left out into the sun to dry. And the way that they know that it's totally dry is the skin on the outside, which looks like nothing, will dry into a bark.
Okay.
And so when that has turned reddish brown, they know that it's ready. Sometimes that reddish brown bark is completely peeled off for its own use, but sometimes it's left on too because those pieces can be used for two-tone elements. So it'll just be the red brown on the other side and then the pale white on the inner part. So this, I'll have a video of it from YouTube. It's amazing. It's so scary. So the artisan will let's say they're going to take the whole rod and they want to chop it down. They're going to chop it down into about a 4-inch long piece.
Okay.
So in their dominant hand, they hold a huge cleaver. It's so big and so sharp. And in their non-dominant hand, they press the cleaver up against the piece of this Sola wood and they just spin it and they lathe off the entire sheet until that roll that they had in their hand is gone.
Really?
It looks like gauze. It looks like it's amazing.
So thin.
It is unbelievable. I'm like,
crazy.
it's so silly. I got like goosebumps because it is. I can't imagine. I can't even peel a potato very well with just like a paring knife.
Yeah.
I'm not good at that. Like the dexterity and like the strength of your hand to control that. So, anywho, so then these sheets are stacked up upon each other. Considering they're so thin, it takes quite a lot. So, depending on, let's say they're going to make a flower. So this is the same theme we're going with. They're going to stack it up and chop sections off for the width of the petal that's needed.
Okay.
They'll wrap that up in twine or a rubber band, whatever that they have handy, and they'll cut up all these little pieces for that bundle. Then they take another knife that's extremely sharp, and because this wood is so soft and pliable, it just looks like it's crazy. They're just barely touching it, and it carves off the entire chunk. This like 3-inch thick chunk of wood that they have stacked up, but it's just like nothing. It's just like cutting through cotton candy. It's so beautiful.
Crazy.
So that's how they shape the petal. Then they unrelease the bundle, lay it open, spritz it with water. Hold a stick in their hand. They put one petal on at a time and a piece of string, and they just twist it and wrap it.
Okay.
They layer another, twist the string, wrap it. Layer. So they do this until
I'm picturing it.
Until the shape is achieved. So if they're making a rose, they would have rounded off the tip of that little rectangle, and then it's done, and it's like so beautiful, and it is basically infinitely reshapeable. You just spritz it with water, and then they will round and bend the pieces to curve them through. They will use natural dyes like we've talked about before with, turmeric and onion skins, and they can tone them any color basically that's wanted. It can be painted upon as well, the same things. The big giant hats that are made, let's say for one of the bridal pieces, it's crazy. So instead of the little chunk, it is the huge rod, and it's like a huge samurai sword. And it's like,
that is
so they
crazy.
Make a huge sheet, and then within that they will carve pieces out, and then when it's dried, it's stiff. And they'll build upon it. They'll cover it in cloth and gold leaf. It's like, I got goosebumps. It's so funny, but it's just like, it's so cool.
Yeah.
And it's been done for thousands of years.
That's cool.
And I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So in modern times, it is exactly the same. So again, like we always tell you guys it, but it's like we're really planning out a whole repertoire here. You can buy these little kits on Amazon under $20, and it comes with them all preformed, and maybe it's not with the string and the stick, but it's probably like Elmer's glue or tape. You could probably tape them together, hot glue. It literally doesn't matter. And in today's time, when you want to color them instead, it's just a 1 to 2 part mix of acrylic paint and water. And you just like dunk it in and shake it off and let it dry.
That's cool.
Yeah. Most Sola wood bouquets, if you want to get like these beautiful ones from a website that does it for you, they're like under $75.
Yeah. And that's nice because it's like they don't die.
No,
It's
never.
like a bouquet that lasts.
Yeah, forever. And they said
yeah.
they literally will, because they can pretty much withstand any humidity you put them
Yeah.
in, as long as they can dry out eventually.
Yeah.
But even so, the likelihood of them deteriorating, the only thing you have to do is kind of dust them.
Yeah.
You know, and the reality is too, you could rinse them off with water if they got really
True.
messed up.
Yeah.
You may have to reshape it a little, but yeah, I
use
really could have dove so deep into it, but it was just going into semantics of each country and
Yeah.
religious. And
Yeah.
that's beautiful and that's totally fine, but I will put in links for that stuff, and I'll put in, there are sculptors, but it's not from a solid piece, because when I'll show a picture of the soul, it's not even as big around as a bamboo. There are very large chunks, but that's like the tuber. So the sculptures are just like layers and layers of glued on, and yeah, they're beautiful. Because you can add anything decorative without adding weight to stuff. So it could be used easy. You can imagine if you could make a statue the size of one of us, and you just pick it up, a little kid could pick it up. Yeah. So the reality is that it's and it's a completely sustainable item.
Yeah, see, I saw your bouquet. I didn't pick it up, though.
Yeah, you totally should. It weighs nothing.
I don't,
because I was so asleep.
Yeah.
I was so asleep that I was like, oh, yay. And so it didn't even occur to me that it weighed like nothing.
Yeah.
Until it bashed me in the nose. He was all, oh, sorry. Yeah, so I wish I had some like fun facts. Sometimes we do, but one interesting fact is that it is used. We were actually talking about some homeopathic remedies before we started recording. Is that one of its uses throughout history is to treat uterine bleeding.
What?
Yes. So I'm not saying go out and do it, people. I'm just saying
I'll
it's
try
something,
it.
Right? Right. But hormone support.
I
but
know.
yeah, so I was like, it's cool.
That's cool.
But you know what? I will say this is something that I do really love, how we were talking about it. Sometimes it's hard to get into it. We've said it so many times. And then we do, and we're like, this was easy. I don't know why I was bitching.
Yeah.
But I do love it, because sometimes we struggle coming up with a craft idea, and I had to get bashed in the face, and I was like, what are these made of? Like, I knew what they are called, but I had no idea. And it's funny because I don't mean to go thematically or anything, but I'm like, I have another craft already.
I know. I have a few, like, just the title popped up. Like, I'm like, oh, I got to save this idea. And so instead of a list, I just like start a new Google Doc. Like, here's the title of the next craft.
Screenshot it. I'm like, I'll remember this later.
Yeah.
Or I'll click it and open a tab. And that's why I have like 30 open.
Yeah. I know sometimes a craft just comes to you, and that's like a few that is like literally. And like one day I was like, oh my gosh, I have like 4.
The one that I found that I will probably be doing next, I literally never heard of it. And somehow it just popped up on like Facebook. And I was like, what?
Yeah. Oh, well, that was interesting.
Oh, there's also only 70 master artisans, I believe, in that area of Bengal.
That's cool.
It makes sense. Watching that blade work, bananas.
Yeah.
And the YouTube video that I'll have in the sources, it's only like 4 minutes long. So it's not like you have to get into a whole documentary. Yeah. It's really cool.
I'm like just untangling all of our cords. We have a lot going on down here because the kids were in here with all the I'm like, your headphones were all tangled and like a charger that wasn't even plugged in. Well, yeah, that was cool. I'm like, I knew exactly what you were talking about, so I could picture it. So but that was cool.
Yeah, I'll have a handful of pictures. Like I said, I hope y'all go watch that little tiny YouTube video. It's cool.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm like getting all these text messages now.
I know. I'm like, all these notifications. Somebody scam called me.
Yeah, I got a scam WhatsApp text. Literally. And then I just got an email about school stuff, so I'm like, there's just so much going on today. But okay, well, I guess we'll move on, and I'll this one's a little different, but I always say that, but it is different, and it is crazy. So this is the case of Charlotte and Marx. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay. So this begins in about 1976 in
I'm so sorry, excuse me.
It's fine. And I'm gonna butcher this. Haula, Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
Which is, it's on the island of Oahu. So 24-year-old Mark Barnes is a freelance writer from California, and he ended up moving to Oahu after being in the military, and he had a tour out there or whatever. So at the time he's living alone, And, he's a freelance writer, and he gets a knock on the door, and it's a woman named Charlotte Moriarty, and she's got a guy with her, and they're lost, and they're asking for directions. So he gives them directions, and they, go on their way.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, Charlotte comes knocking at his door, and she's all by herself, and she's like, hey, can you, show me around the island? And so he agrees. They had
me to run your pants.
They had an instant connection. Yeah. It was like, ooh, you're interesting. So she came back, and I was like, oh, so like I'm all alone, and and she ditched the guy. And so they both had a lot in common. They were both anti-establishment, free spirits. This is in the 70s.
Yeah.
76. So Charlotte, they're getting to know each other, and Charlotte tells Mark that she had been married before and that she has a 7-year-old daughter that lives with her ex-husband in New Mexico. Charlotte wasn't really a big part of her daughter's life. And but in 1976, Charlotte moves to Hawaii, and her and Mark are, together, and then she's pregnant, like pretty quick. Obviously a shock, but they decided, you know what, we're going to make it work. And they have a son named him Marx Barnes. So dad is Mark and baby is baby boy Marx with an X.
Okay.
Everyone obviously over the moon, thrilled little baby boy.
Yeah.
They fall into their roles as parents pretty quickly.
Good.
Now we fast forward to June 21st, 1977. This is where everything starts this day, June 21st, 1977. It's around 9 a.m. and Mark is working on the property, and they help manage it in exchange for rent. So he's, working on the deck, and he's planting some like birds of paradise. And so Charlotte, she's 31 at this time. She tells Mark that she's going to go to the local shop. It's like maybe a few blocks away to pick up some things, and then she'll be home. And she took their 6-month-old son, Marx, with her. So, they head off. Nothing new. She's just going to the store. And some time goes by, and now it's around 1 p.m. and Charlotte still isn't back. So Mark decides to, go to the shop where she said she was going in order to, see if he could find her there. But on the way, he finds Marx's stroller left at a bus stop. So he's like, what? So he's like, Marx isn't in the stroller, it's just the stroller.
Yeah.
And he's thinking, okay, maybe Charlotte got on the bus with Marx and just left the stroller behind, didn't want to take it on the bus. So he's like, I'll just take the stroller home. Like, so he takes the stroller home, and he waits all day long for Charlotte and Marx to come home. But then it's 8 p.m. and there's still no sign of them. So Mark is now thinking, okay, maybe Charlotte took the bus to go visit a friend on another part of the island. We might think this is a little weird. Then again, it is the 70s. They're both free spirits. And it actually wasn't really uncommon for her to go and like stay with friends and stuff and just not say anything. So he's not too concerned because like she had the diaper bag, bottles, diapers, everything that she
didn't leave the baby behind except for a stroller, which
just
again,
the stroller.
I would hate taking a stroller on a
bus. Yeah. So he's like, okay, she's probably just with a friend. Not the first time she's done this. So
right,
he's
you
not
gotta
really
find a payphone. There's no cell phone in her diaper bag.
So now 2 days have gone by, and there's still no sign of Charlotte or Mark. So at this point, Mark is like really starting to get concerned. So he decides to call the Honolulu police, and he tells them that, Charlotte's missing, but she's a free spirit. Like, she's been known to take off for a few days at a time without calling. And because of this, they say, well, just give it some more time and she'll probably come back. So after a few more days, still no sign of her. So he calls back and says that both Charlotte and Marx are missing.
Yeah.
And they just took some information over the phone, and that was it. No officer came out to take a formal report or anything. And obviously, you could tell they're just thinking, she's going to show back up. She's taken off before. She's an adult.
Yeah.
She's 31. So fast forward. Now it's been 20 days. And there's still no sign or word of Charlotte or Marx. So Mark is now really concerned. And so he's, talking to his friend, and one of his close friends is like, his friend's name is Jim Murray. And he was like, I saw Charlotte walking with Marx, but it was a busy road in Honolulu. And it was just a few days after she had gone missing, like around the time that she had gone missing, and but it was like kind of busy. He couldn't really stop and like help, and he was like, I saw her. He thought it was strange, but so that was like the only sighting of her. So at this point, it's July 10th, 1977. He decides to go down to the police station to see, is there any progress on the missing persons case? He finds out there was no report even filed.
Oh my God.
And not only that, they have no record of his phone calls that he made before. So nobody did anything.
So they just listened to him and didn't write down
shit.
Yep.
Because they're thinking, okay, well, she's an adult. She just took off, So, yeah, they didn't do anything. So Mark is now telling officers that he didn't say anything in the phone call about her mental state. He only said she's a free spirit and, she's known to take off. Not like, oh, she's having a psychotic break. Nothing. It's like, but she's missing. She's not home.
We've mentioned this before, too. It's like, I mean, do you really think the mother of your kid is not going to call for 3 weeks?
Exactly.
Maybe a few days. I get it. Because you're on the bus for a few days or something. You're like, I can't. But not weeks. Like,
no.
Come on now.
So, yeah. So he's, talking to officers saying on the day she went missing, she was completely happy. Everything's normal. She just left for the store. But he tells officers, okay, so 6 months before, right after she had the baby, she'd come back from the hospital after having Marks, and her behavior was really strange. She would walk around the house with a blindfold on for like over a week, like up to like 10 days, like just so Mark had to step up and take care of the baby.
So maybe some like postpartum psychosis kind of.
So eventually she came around, took the blindfold off, and so he was like, maybe she had some sort of postpartum depression. She was known to have mood swings, so it's having a baby messes with you.
Yeah.
I had severe postpartum depression and anxiety after I had Lincoln, and then it just got worse after I had Lillian. Having a baby will do that to you. So she was very likely suffering from some sort of postpartum issues, and especially if she had some mental issues before then. It's you're pretty prone to it. So but there's really nothing alarming about her behavior. She just want to be alone. She sometimes just take off. So that's why he was saying it wasn't really out of the ordinary, but 20 days, like, come on, like, this is really weird. So on the show that I watch, it will be in the show notes, Charlotte's daughter, Jennifer, remember how she had a daughter from her previous marriage? She talked about the time that she saw her mom last. She says that her mom was about 4 months pregnant and had come to visit. And Jennifer said that her mom told her that she would come back for Thanksgiving. And that was the last time that she saw her. After Charlotte had the baby, she was actually trying to work things out to have Jennifer come and visit the baby because that's her brother, her half brother. And so there's plans for Jennifer to fly out to Hawaii to meet the baby around July. And then a few weeks before Jennifer was going to fly out, her dad was just too afraid. He was actually afraid that like Charlotte wasn't going to send Jennifer back home because he had primary custody.
Oh, gotcha.
So he's like, I don't know. Like custody issues are weird. She was 7 at the time, 7 or 8. And so it's like, she's little, but it's just, custody can be really tricky, and especially across state lines. And this is in the 70s, and so it's like, who's to say she's not going to get her daughter in Hawaii and just be like, I'm not sending her back. She's mine now.
Because it was pretty much like you could send them with like a homeless person on the street and they wouldn't check. Like there's then
it would be really hard for the dad to try to get her back.
Right.
So I can understand why, but he was like, nope. You're not going. So he refused to send her to Hawaii, and Jennifer talks about how she thinks this is like what broke her mother. Because this is just a few weeks before, like, So anyways, now that there's an official missing persons report, you would think that there would be like a huge search effort.
Right.
But
because it's been 3 weeks with a baby?
Yeah. No. It's not the case. There was so think about the 70s. It's not uncommon for a quote free spirit to just take off, a lot of hippies and stuff, but so they weren't really paying too close. It wasn't under weird circumstances, especially knowing her previous behavior. So there was just a little like mention of her disappearance, like and Marx's disappearance in the local news, and that's about it. So really nothing. So Mark decided, I'm going to search for them. So he went to all the beaches and was searching all the areas that he thought she might have gone to, and no sign. It's like they just vanished. There was nothing anywhere, no clues. So, yeah, at this point, like everyone, including police, is just thinking she just took the baby and just took off. So now 2 years have gone by, and yeah, the case goes cold. There's no sign of them. So at this point, it had been a couple years. Mark decided, there's not really a lot of work for him in Hawaii, so he decided to move back to California. So he moves to Northern California. He's still working he's still working as a freelance writer. And he ends up getting married, and he has 2 daughters, and this marriage doesn't last long because he couldn't get over wondering what happened to Charlotte and Marx.
Right, which it's like, you can't blame him.
It's the unknown. He doesn't know if they're alive, if they're dead, what happened. So
yeah, I mean, I get it. It's bad for everybody involved. That's sad.
But yeah, so it's
like, how can you expect them to be over it? But I understand. You're like, you're in love with me and you're married to me, but you're like, my kid is maybe dead.
Sure, it consumed a lot of his time. So
yeah, that's all
ended
sad.
that marriage, and then another marriage after that. So
oof.
yeah,
Poor thing. Poor everybody.
I know. So yeah, that was after a couple years, and then, like I said, his life kind of went on, and he's trying to move on. Now 27 years have gone by since Charlotte and Marx went missing, and now it's around 2004, and Charlotte's daughter Jennifer decides, I'm going to get involved. I need to find my mom and my brother. Like, I got to figure out what happened. Yeah. So she goes out to Honolulu and meets with detectives, and when they first start looking at the case, they see in their case notes that Mark waited 3 weeks to say anything. And
yeah, which sucks because he didn't, but
he did, but there's no record of it. And so because of that, they're just kind of going off of what it is. So they're like, well, he waited about 3 weeks before reporting them missing. There's no records that he previously called the police, which is stupid. So now he's considered a suspect.
Yeah.
So detectives agree to take a better look at the case, and they go to the neighborhood where Mark and Charlotte lived back in 1977, and they go and knock on doors to see if anyone, was around at that time, and if they see anything, or if they've seen anything out of the ordinary, or, like just what was their life like and stuff.
Yeah, because, I mean, even all those years later, you're like, you remember weird stuff for a long time.
Yeah, and so
especially if you had like a gross feeling about it, you're always going to be like, should I have said something? Like, I saw something weird, but I bet it was nothing. But like,
yeah, and you're talking about 27 years later.
Exactly.
It's like, it's a long time.
You're like, they had hair and they were like this tall. Yeah, I'm like holding my hand up and down. It's like they did their best.
You're gonna remember something, and thankfully, like one of the neighbors did remember something. Yeah. And he said that their relationship wasn't great and they got into arguments a lot. And so, I mean, that's really not, every couple fights, honestly, everyone can get into a disagreement with your spouse. Yeah. And if you don't, you're lying. So, you can have a disagreement without yelling, but but he's like, oh, they got into arguments a lot. So then detectives then are like, okay, let's start reaching out to people who were close to Charlotte and Mark. So in 2005, Jim Murray was visited by detectives, and he was asked some questions about Mark and Charlotte, and they tell him, well, Mark's a suspect. And Jim's like, no way. There's absolutely no way he was involved at all.
Yeah.
And he was adamant about that. Like, there's absolutely no way. And so they were like, okay, let's talk to Mark. So they bring him in and they tell him that he's a suspect.
Yeah.
And they're like, you must have had something to do with their disappearance. And so they ask him why he waited so long and to report her missing, and that he's like, well, this is not the first time she's kind of taken off, and I did call, but you don't have record of that. She has been known to take off for days on end, and he called. So then they asked him about the claims of arguments, and he was like, well, yeah, we had arguments, like who doesn't, especially that fast of a relationship. You don't really know each other that well, I would think, before having a baby.
Yeah.
So they ask him if he'd be willing to take a polygraph test. And he's like, sure. So they ask him a bunch of questions, and the, what is it, the polygraph reporter, whatever. Like, it was kind of hard to read. It almost was like hard to say, like, oh, he passed or he failed. It was kind of inconclusive, but it was like, he's not really being deceptive. So there was really no indication he had anything to do with it. And so, let him go. So at this time, so it's like, well, they don't, thankfully, because it's like, you just want to arrest him and just, we got the case closed. Like he had something to do with it. He's just lying. But so, well, then again, you can't really take a polygraph test and do anything with that legally.
Right.
So at this time, detectives then decide to change the status of the case from missing person to homicide. They're convinced like they're dead. They have to be dead. There's been no look of them.
Exactly. Nobody's been like, we saw someone. Usually tips will come in and they'll be like, we saw someone that looked like that a lot.
Exactly.
There'll be a lot of wrong ones.
Yeah. But nothing. So they're like, they have to be dead. Like there's no way they would just vanish into thin air for 27 years. So they then go to the property where Charlotte and Mark lived, and they decide to use like ground penetrating radar. They dug around the property trying to find anything. They didn't find anything. So the only other thing now was that they could do was to age progress Marx's photo to see, what he might look like now. No, remember, he's a 6-month-old baby. And yes, it is 27 years later, so it's in the 2000s. They've got a lot better at that, but they decide to age progress this and release it. So they also decide to take DNA. So Mark submitted his DNA to be used to compare against any potential matches for Mark's. And then Jennifer's DNA as well as her grandmother's DNA was used. So like Charlotte's mom,
so it's like
and her daughter.
2 longer sequence.
Yeah, for Charlotte's DNA to compare against her. So they had her daughter and her mother to compare against her, and then Marx's father for him. So during this time, Mark is still considered a suspect. They're still not ruling him out.
Yeah.
So now fast forward again. It's been 34 years since they disappeared. I have goosebumps. Aww. Okay, so this is now in November 2011. Mark gets a call from the Honolulu Police Department that they have a match to his DNA, and it's matched to his son. His son's alive. Yeah, I have goosebumps. Too. I was not expecting that. Like, this is all new to me until I'm like learning about it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound familiar to me.
Yeah, his name is not Mark's. His name is now William Stevens Tenzin Carter.
Wow.
He goes by Steve Carter. So we don't have to say the long name.
That's a fancy name.
Yeah. And you'll kind of see where one of the names comes in. So William Stevens Tenzin Carter. So all he knew was that he lived in Honolulu, or in Hawaii. Sorry, not Honolulu. I'm sure Honolulu. Hawaii. Until he was adopted.
Oh.
He didn't know anything other than that until he was like in college, and then he's like, I want to find out who my birth parents are. So he had recently seen an article about a woman who found her birth parents through a DNA database for missing and exploited children. Okay. So he decides, I'm going to go on the website.
This was before 31andMe, people.
Yeah. So he goes on the website. It's called missingkids.com. And he's like, I'm going to just type in my information that I know. And, like his birthday, his, like his eye color, all of that. And he found a match to Mark's Barnes. And their birthdays are similar. All their demographics were like him. The age progression looked like him.
Really?
So he's like,
so they did a good job?
Oh, they did a good job.
Dang.
He was like, whoa, like, holy shit, that's got to be me. And yeah. And so that's when he's like, I'm going to call the Honolulu Police Department and I'm going to submit a DNA sample for comparison. And that is what confirmed, yep, this is your son. Yeah. So it matched Mark's Barnes DNA. Well, the profile that he had thanks to his dad.
Yeah.
So Mark's was adopted in Hawaii, and that family then moved to New Jersey, and this is where he grew up. He had a great upbringing. That's great good. Childhood. So good outcome.
Sad considering, but that's good still.
Yeah. So he had great parents and all that. So when Steve found out that who his biological father was, he decided, I'm going to call him. Called him up, and then one of the things Mark asked his son is, how's your mother? And he had to tell him, I don't know where she is. And that was shocking to Mark. He was convinced like Charlotte just took off with him and like started a new life. So why would he not know? Like, so what happened?
Nuts.
So Steve was able to provide police with a big piece of the puzzle, his birth certificate that he had from the orphanage in Honolulu. His name on the birth certificate was Tenzin Ame.
What?
Yeah, so that middle name. So they kept the Tenzin because that was his birth name.
Right.
Not Marx Barnes.
Wow.
Tenzin Amea. Ame. A-M-E-A. But it's Ame. Police also find a police report that goes along with this timeline. Now, detectives are starting to like piece together the timeline of events from the time that Charlotte left with Marx and like what happened. So she had left with Marx on a bus, leaving the stroller behind. She then ended up on the other side of the island. Then on June 22nd, 1977, this is the day after she left, Charlotte shows up at a stranger's house carrying baby Marx. She tells the person, "Oh, it's my baby girl." Yeah.
Oh.
And gives the person a Japanese name. She then is like, "Can I get some milk and a diaper change?" Like yeah. So the homeowner is like, "This is weird. I'm calling the police. Like this lady needs help." So police show up. Charlotte tells them that her name is Jane Ame and her baby is named Tenzin Ame. And so they thought, this lady needs some mental help. We're going to take her in. They take her to the Honolulu. I keep saying that because it's an H. Hawaii State Hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. And she's admitted and the baby is taken into protective custody. And she was in the hospital for about 5 days. And then a social worker comes up to her and she's like, "I want to reunite you with your baby. This is where your baby is at this, place." She gives the address. And then Charlotte leaves the hospital and is never seen after that.
Oh, no.
And she's still missing to this day. We have no idea what happened to Charlotte.
Sad.
So, yeah. So Steve grew up as an only child. So he was thrilled that he has a sister.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, cool. And he doesn't hold any animosity towards Charlotte for what she did. And he actually said, quote, "I hope she's healthy and happy. If she's ready to come out, she will. And if she's not, I just wish her the best."
Aww.
And he said he had a great childhood and he's just happy that his family is bigger now.
Poor everybody again. That's a bummer. And the other reality, as sad as it is, not taking him could have been the best thing she ever did. It's sad for his dad. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But maybe she was like, "I'm going to kill him if you give him to me." You just don't know.
Yeah.
But
I think she was just having some sort of psychotic break and just left. Was like, he's better off without me, maybe. I don't know. But
like, why wouldn't you? Well, if she was so psychotically gone, she couldn't even give her husband's information either. I mean, if she really thought she was somebody else, and that baby was a different name, that was a girl, not a boy.
But how bizarre would that be? 30, almost 35 years later. Oh, we found your son. He's alive. What? Like,
and thought his parents gave him up for adoption.
Yeah.
Dang.
It's just, and then for him to find out that like his mom just, I don't know, had some mental it's crazy. It was not. I was telling Jack about this and he was like, "What?" And I was like, "I know, right? It's just not what I was expecting at all."
It's like, it's stereotypical to be like, "Oh, it's a bunch of islands and it's really small," but it still is small. That's very odd.
Well, you're in the middle of the ocean.
That you're
in one island. Like,
gone.
It's not like she's just gone.
That's why I'm like, she's probably.
I don't know. I don't know if anybody listens to us out in Hawaii and you know anything.
Even more news articles or anything you remember hearing about it.
Yeah.
Do you remember hearing about it?
Yeah.
Crazy.
So, yeah. I was like, whoa.
At least it has some good to it, though.
Yeah. He's fine.
And it's never too late. I mean, he's only 36-ish, maybe. So.
Yeah. No, he's living a life. He's totally normal. A normal guy. He's met his sister. From what I watched at the time, he had met his sister a couple times. He talked to his dad on the phone a couple times. But at the time, I don't know. I'd have to look at the date. I don't know that he's met his dad in person, but he's talked to him. But yeah, I can imagine that's just really hard to wrap your head around. Could you imagine thinking, "Oh, I just want to know who my birth parents are," and then you're like, "Whoa, wait, I was a missing person for this long?
Right?
Like, and my mom's just gone?
That is
like,
crazy.
Wow." So yeah, so not really crime,
not a total downer.
Not a total downer. It had a really good ending. That baby boy is now an adult and he's alive, and so there is a good outcome. And he did not have a horrible life, and he had a good life. So it all worked out. But, I mean, we still don't know what happened to her. So that's the one unsolved thing that I've done so far. Where I'm like, we just don't know where she is. And she might just want to keep it that way.
Yeah, maybe.
And that's fine.
She's probably going by that other name she said.
Oh, I know. Maybe. Or maybe she made up a new one.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Wow.
Huh. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just leave it on that note because there's nothing else to add, but that was kind of interesting to
That was
me.
good. You did a good job. I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
Yeah, I hadn't either. And
Which is like, what the heck? That should be like news. That should be like...
You would think. But it happened in the 70s.
Yeah. But when they got reunited,
it was in the news. I'll add some in the show notes. I'll add some articles and stuff.
I think the reason I'm always
really
surprised is it's like you and I just see so much of this stuff.
I know.
So it's like, why didn't I hear about that?
I know. There's a lot that I've heard about that I'm like, oh, that would be cool, but I'm sure there's not a lot of information, and so
because it's so new.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Alrighty.
Okay. Well, with that, stay crafty
and not crimey.
Bye.